Welcome back to Mayo Movie Club, where every month I make recommendations to the viewers of my channel. It could be an old classic, a modern masterpiece, or maybe something that isn't that great, but just has something interesting about it that makes it worth watching. This month we're really jumping all over the place. The first movie is Let the Right One In, 2008. Based on the book of the same name, this Swedish-made vampire film holds a special place in my heart. It's close to a flawless film. Let the Right One In tells the tale of two young children who meet in their apartment complex and become friends. But these are no ordinary children. Oscar is a troubled boy with a disturbing side to his psyche that makes you think that he could easily grow up to be a serial killer. He's bullied at school, doesn't have any friends, and seems to get almost an orgasmic sensation from violence. Ellie is a girl that recently moved to the area with her caretaker, and she's certainly not normal either. She's a vampire. Her caretaker finds victims for her to feed on, bringing fresh blood back home after disposing of the bodies. As many times as I've seen this movie, I've never fully settled on why their relationship functions this way. Does he kill for her because she'd rather not kill people? Or does he do it because it's too dangerous for her to go outside and do it herself and he wants to keep her safe? Maybe the book elaborates on this, but either explanation works really. These two messed up kids form a connection and eventually end up needing each other. The movie isn't scary or disturbing, it's not a traditional horror movie. It's a story that takes place in a horror setting, but it's more of a film about childhood friendship than a shocking or terrifying vampire movie. The cinematography is gorgeous. Every frame of this movie is a mix of beautiful photography and cold, lonely color palettes. The music is nice, the acting is impressive, the practical effects are solid and believable. It's one of my favorite horror movies of all time, and I can't recommend it highly enough. Just don't watch the American remake Let Me In. Just 1 year after the original movie came out, instantly getting recognized around the world for how good it was quickly remade for American audiences. The remake is very odd in that it seems to try hard to look and feel like the original while totally changing the nature of the characters. It may appear to be a faithful remake on the surface, but deep down, it's a betrayal to the source material. It's like an alien walking around masquerading as the original, like Invasion of the Bodysnatchers. Have you seen that one? Invasion of the Bodysnatchers from 1978? Well, you should. The story of Invasion of the Bodysnatchers was originally told in 1956 and later remade in 1978 with an awesome cast including a young Jeff Goldblum, Leonard Nimoy of Star Trek fame, and one of my favorite actors, Donald Sutherland. It's a really simple concept of alien pods that land in a city and start to take over the bodies of the citizens. The protagonists of the film don't know who they can trust, as anyone they come across could be an imposter. It's a film largely about paranoia. It's very simple, and while I wouldn't say it's one of my favorites, it's an important film that influenced plenty of stories told today. I'm sure there's a Rick and Morty episode about it somewhere. The only real problem I have with this movie is the opening and the title. It spoils everything. The title tells you right away what to expect, and the opening of the movie clearly shows that there's an alien invasion happening. I think this movie would be 10 times better if it played out as a mystery where the audience doesn't know what's happening, so we could relate to the character's journey as they're uncovering the truth. Next up is one of my favorite action movies of all time, Speed, 1994. 5 years before Keanu Reeves became Neo from The Matrix, and 20 years before John Wick, Keanu skyrocketed into the mainstream with Speed. This was the first movie that really defined him as a household name. He is awesome in this movie. Speed is about a domestic terrorist who plants a bomb on a city bus, with a trigger set to activate if the bus drops under 50 miles per hour. Wonderfully simple and elegant premise that gives rise to so many fun situations. Dennis Hopper plays the terrorist in a great over-the-top fashion that he was so good at, and Sandra Bullock is a passenger on the bus that has to take over as the driver after the actual driver becomes indisposed. It's 110 minutes of adrenaline-fueled action and tension. Everyone was talking about Speed when it came out, because it's great. But people were also talking about it because of one scene in particular. A very bad scene. A scene that shouldn't have been included in the movie. There's one part where they're on an unfinished bridge and they have to jump the gap. It's ridiculous. It's too ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense. You could remove this entire section from the movie and it would be so much better. Everything else works, more or less, except for this idiotic sequence. If you can set that aside, the movie's great. And the music in the opening credits, doesn't it sound familiar? It bears a striking resemblance to the Metal Gear Solid Alert music. The next movie I want to talk about is A Time to Kill, 1996. I love a good courtroom drama. Author John Grisham has had many books adapted into films: The Firm, The Pelican Brief, The Client, but I think A Time to Kill is the best. Matthew McConaughey plays a small-town lawyer in desperate need for new clients when suddenly he has to defend a man who takes vengeance on two criminals who kidnapped his daughter. It's him against the state to determine the fate of a man that the audience will clearly sympathize with, but is also 100% guilty of murder. On top of that, it takes place in an area with a lot of racial tension, leading to death threats, assassination attempts, and appearances from the KKK. A Time to Kill is packed with top-tier acting talent. Samuel L. Jackson, Donald Sutherland, Sandra Bullock, Kevin Spacey, who I know is disgraced, but still, he's good in the movie. We also have smaller roles by Charles S. Dutton, Chris Cooper, Ashley Judd, Oliver Platt, Kiefer Sutherland, so many good actors. And around this time, my two Hollywood crushes were Sandra Bullock and Ashley Judd, so it was a dream come true to see them in the same movie. Matthew McConaughey, you lucky bastard. While we're on the topic of racism, that brings me to my next recommendation, Short Circuit 1 and 2. Short Circuit is one of the most heartwarming movies ever made. The story of a military robot struck by lightning who becomes self-aware. When he's discovered by a lone country girl, she thinks he's an alien and takes him into her home. She helps him learn about the world, sharing her books with him. The robot quickly forms a personality and shows endless curiosity as well as compassion. It's an incredibly sweet movie, and one that probably makes me smile more than anything else I've ever seen. I don't think there's any character in all of cinema that makes me smile like Johnny Five. He's one of the most influential robot designs of all time. You can see him clearly in the design of Wall-E. Watch Short Circuit, it's great. The only problem is that half the movie is great. All the stuff with Johnny Five and Stephanie is really good. That's what the movie's about, and that's what you'll remember. The other half is these two idiots going around looking for Johnny Five. Every time it cuts away from Johnny Five and Stephanie to show these tools running around and arguing, the movie will lose you. They're uninteresting and they're annoying, but the strong parts of the movie more than make up for it. There's also the issue of the character of Ben, a character that kids grew up thinking was Indian. And well, the character is Indian, but the actor is not. The actor is white. He used an accent and darkened his skin to play the part. It has to be addressed if we're going to talk about Short Circuit, because it's not a black and white issue, for lack of a better phrase. The character was not originally supposed to be Indian. Actor Fisher Stevens was cast in the original role, and then before filming started, they decided to change the character to be Indian. After some difficulties in recasting the part, Stevens was asked if he could do it, and he agreed. He actually spent a lot of time with Indian families, learning about them and the way they spoke and acted, so he appears to have taken it seriously as an actor. He wasn't going into the character wanting to be a mockery. I'm not saying it's okay, it's not okay, but it was the 80s and people weren't as enlightened, and yeah, they should have known better. It's not like 1950s blackface where they do it to degrade people, but it's still shitty. There's a lot of movies with this problem too. You can see white stuntmen with darkened skin in the Indiana Jones movies, probably because they didn't know anyone to play those parts, so they thought, oh well, let's just paint your skin and no one will notice. It's an unfortunate part of movie history, but I don't think it was malicious, so I believe it can be overlooked to enjoy the movies. However, in Short Circuit, even if Fisher Stevens was trying to be authentic in his portrayal, the script is not. I think the director's mentality about the character was insensitive, as Ben appears to exist solely to make jokes. He's not a very important character, and every time he talks, he's saying something incorrectly in English for the audience to laugh. It's weird, it's uncomfortable, and it's not funny. It brings down the movie. It makes you think they made his character Indian just so he could say funny things, and I have a feeling that's the truth. Where things get better is in Short Circuit 2. Now Ben is actually the main character of the story, and the writers flesh him out so much better this time. He still says some funny things, but his English translation mistakes feel a lot more clever this time, especially if you're someone who speaks multiple languages and knows how things get mistranslated sometimes. Ben frequently uses the continuous form incorrectly. For example, I am seeing that you are lost instead of I see that you are lost, which is a very common mistake for some people learning English. Ben's character is so much more developed as he's now studying to become a US citizen and trying to establish himself as an inventor. Fisher Stevens' portrayal of this character, combined with the much improved writing, redeem Ben as more than just a caricature and present him as an endearing person. And while the skin bronzing will always be an unfortunate and insensitive fact, Short Circuit 2's evolution of Ben is so good that you'll probably forget about it. Both movies are really good. Short Circuit 1 is the better and more important film, but where Short Circuit 2 shines is in Ben's portrayal and how much it features Johnny Five. He's in the whole movie basically. Half the movie doesn't cut away to characters you don't care about. It's the Johnny Five show, and it's a blast. These movies make for a great double feature. I hope you've enjoyed this month's episode of Mayo Movie Club. Let me know in the comments if you watched the movies from last month and what you think. And tell me what you think of these movies, and I hope you have a good time watching them for your first time or as a repeat viewing.